things around. So, okay, let's get started. Before I dive into what we've been working on in the design lab, I want to talk a little bit about what sparked my interest in the field of design. I came to the United States as a refugee in the 1970s, and my family settled in Orange County, California. And when I was 12, my parents moved to Riverside County to buy a plot of land, 16 acres, on a farm in order to farm Vietnamese vegetables. And each week, my parents would load up the delivery van full of vegetables and drive from our home in Hemet, California, to Little Saigon in Westminster. And the van could only accommodate one person at a time, one kid at a time, along with my parents. And my 9 siblings and I would fight over who would get to go to the market with them, because inevitably it would end, the trip would end with somebody getting a candy bar. And so I was often the lucky one because, well, one, I was small and it could fit between them in the van. And I was exceptionally good at math and could calculate the bill and write the invoices. When we started taking these trips in the mid-1980s, we would traverse flowing freeways that were rarely ever congested across large areas of dairy farms. But by the mid-1990s, traffic was so congested that it took nearly 2 hours to crawl the 18-mile stretch of the 91 freeway from Orange County to Corona. The drive until you qualify for a mortgage movement, right? People would work in Orange County but have to keep on driving until they could afford a mortgage, would create this massive suburban sprawl across the inland landscape. And it became nearly impossible for us to harvest the crops, load up the van, deliver vegetables to multiple stores and restaurants, and make it home all in one day. Then in 1995, this small device here changed our lives. This transponder allowed us to travel the newly built 18 miles of the first fully automated express lane in the United States without stopping in traffic. And to me, it seemed magical. My parents and I could deliver the vegetables and be home in time for dinner with my other 8 siblings. This experience really sparked my curiosity about how technology, combined with the design of the built environment, shapes our lives. Our ability to take this trip multiple times a week allowed my family's farm to grow and prosper. So I'm gonna take a minute and ask you, when you think about design, what does it mean to you when you hear the word design? And when you hear about the design lab, what kind of design comes to mind? And I'm gonna ask you to use your chat box to type in some responses, because what I often get asked is, what is design? What are you doing over there? So let's take a minute. And I'd love to see your thoughts on what design is. So creative vision, ergonomics, aeronautics, electronics, aerospace. Design is innovation and creativity in all aspects of life. We'd like to think so in the design lab, that's for sure. Plan and organize an object or an idea, right? It can be a thing, it can be an idea, you can design it, you can plan it. That's right, so keep it coming. No one said to create products, so that's good, because that's not what we do in the design lab. Multi-purpose. Does this include cognitive science? It sure does. And I'll talk about some of the work that our faculty and researchers in cognitive science are working on. Wonderful. So what is design, and how do I think about design? Design is about asking the right questions. If you're not asking the right questions, then you aren't solving the problems, or you're solving the wrong problems or creating a new problem. Design is about being boundary spanning. Solving the most pressing, complex problems requires us not to be bounded by our methodologies or siloed in our disciplinary traditions. I know this is hard when you're in the academy because that's how we're trained, right? But good design depends on a deep understanding of human, social, and environmental contexts, and disciplines that expand how they think about the field, and disciplines that find synergies across the disciplinary divide will create transformative design. Design also creates better systems. Design should make systemic change, and design should consider the multiple scales. So for me, I'm an urban planner, and when I think about multiple scales, I think about individuals and families living within a house that's located in a neighborhood, that's within a city, that's connected to a region, and so on and so forth, right? We can't just plan and design at one scale because all of these different scales are interconnected. And good design, transformative design, can alter the trajectory of our lives. So what about design at UCSD? What does the Design Lab do? Well, the Design Lab departs from traditional design fields that design products and services that are cool and shiny, or seek to make a profit, or only to make a profit, but rather we want to tackle the root causes of social problems and change systems and structures so that we don't continue down the same path that we're going. During these historic and unprecedented times, there's a convergence of forces that are challenging us like never before. This moment in history is what I'm calling the boiling point, and it's fueled by the Great Recession of the late 2000s, when over 6 million American families lost their homes to foreclosures. This created a global economic crisis that many families have still not recovered from. It's also fueled by a global racial reckoning over the oppression of people of color and the systemic racism that is pervasive across institutions and social structures. We're also experiencing the most intense and frequently occurring extreme weather events in our recorded history, forcing us to really think about where and how we live. And then millennials, the largest living adult generation, are facing crushing debt that sets them back from achieving economic independence and financial well-being. They are simultaneously the most educated generation, but yet maybe the first generation to do worse off economically than their parents, the boomers. And then you layer all this on top of COVID, you layer COVID on top of all of this, and the disparate impact of COVID on the sick, the elderly, Black and Latinos, and some of the most underserved and vulnerable populations in our society. So these are the things. These are some of the issues that we're tackling in the Design Lab, and they're hard, they're challenging. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of faculty members and what they're working on. This is Ed Wang. He's in the electrical and computer engineering department. And his vision for what he wants to do in the Design Lab is to use technology to monitor our health more effectively. He creates monitoring devices. They can be a ring on your finger or a watch, in order to monitor people's health more continuously, conveniently, and cheaply. So why does this matter? Why does it have an impact on our society? Well, he argues that most of our medical care comes from these centralized resources, such as hospitals. And that leaves out billions of people who don't have access to hospitals, to these medical facilities. And so these wearables, these devices that we create can improve access to medical care, can make it more convenient, can make people more compliant, and can reduce the cost of care, access to care. And why the Design Lab is the right place to do this is because we've got a number of different groups of people, faculty, students, staff who have special expertise in engineering, medicine, and design. And combining all of these expertise can really, add additional capacity in order to design these new devices. And so this is aspirational. This is what Ed wants to do with his research. He wants to make the Design Lab the place where mobile technologies are going to be created and become the next $1 billion, the next billion medical devices. We're going to create the next tool, the next type of medical devices. This is Lilly Irani, who's a professor, associate professor in the Department of Communication. And this is a picture of her with the United Taxi Workers of San Diego, and she's holding a workshop with them. And Lily's vision is to have us, our society, have more democratic control over the technologies that people use and also that are used on them, and focusing a lot on vulnerable populations. So she says, why does this matter? It matters because companies are selling technology solutions to cities and communities all over the US, all over the globe, really, in order to solve some complex social problems. However, the people that are being monitored aren't necessarily involved in the decision-making process of how that data and technology are used. And so that's problematic. And so the Design Lab is working on developing ideas to have more democratic control over these technologies. And how we do that is to really bring together and convene different stakeholders, community organizations, social scientists, government officials, and technologists to design, to come up with ways to have more democratic control over technology and the data that's collected. Here's just one example of Lily's work here. San Diego installed 3,000 smart streetlights with cameras and gave the video footage to police. And this created a backlash and also revisions and some reforms in the way in which they use this video footage, and raises a lot of questions about who controls public data, who gets to decide how it's used, and how do we have any privacy as city residents. And this is Lily's aspirations for the work that she does in the Design Lab, is that San Diego can be deployed as the world's first community-driven smart city. So, if we're going to become a smart city with the use of technology embedded in what we do, that it should be community-driven. So those are just some examples of what our faculty are working on. We have a lot more faculty who are doing cool and amazing things. And we, in the Design Lab, we really have kind of three, I would call them three large buckets of activities that we're engaged in: education, research, and community. And with education, we've started an undergraduate minor, as well as a graduate specialization, and lots of co-curricular opportunities, such as design sprints with industry partners, where we bring together undergrads who work with an industry partner who might have a question, and they work on this, solving or coming up with a design for this question in 10 weeks, and then provide recommendations to industry partners. We also do a lot of research. Faculty are engaged in societally impactful research, lots of collaborations within the Design Lab, as well as with community and industry partners. And we also have a staff of that we call the community team, and they really work to connect these different buckets of what we do, education and research, with community groups, with local and regional government, and with industry. And where these buckets come together is to solve complex socio-technical systems, this brown area in the middle here. And we really want to have not just local impact, but regional as well as global impact. So what we design, what we prototype in the design lab can then be applied at different scales, at larger scales. This is the new building here, the new design and innovation building that's being constructed on campus. If you're not familiar with where it's located, it's just to orient you, if you know the Canyon View pools, it's on that side of campus. And it's already done. I just got the keys. It's a roughly 70,000 square foot building, 4 stories, situated right next to the new trolley stop, the Pepper Canyon trolley stop. And then it is also right next to the new Pepper Canyon amphitheater that is being built. And that should be done in July of 2022. And we are hoping to move into this building by the time fall quarter starts. And the idea for this part of campus is to be an open campus. This is considered to be one of the front doors to campus, where the community can take public transit, will be dropped off right there. The steps come down from the trolley line and right into our building. And so the building is intended to be open to the community, open to others across campus. It's a space for convening and collaborating, and a resource really for our region. Here's another view of it. I'm going to show you a little video of it. Hopefully this will work to give you a sense of how innovative this part of campus is going to be. Okay, good. In fact, as it's loading, let's see if I can get it to scale right.
For nearly 50 years, National University has been helping people like you earn your college degree one small moments to the big achievements. National University.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so this building is intended to be completely flexible with event space, with meeting space, with classroom space, but there are large garage doors that open out onto the terrace, and so it's convertible to all different types of uses. So somebody put in there, design is multi-purpose, and this building is definitely intended to be multi-purpose. So on the first floor of the building is the basement group. So there are a group on campus that focuses on incubating and entrepreneurship, and they're moving into the first floor of the building. And this is intended to provide space for students to work on projects, to incubate an idea that potentially might become a company or a product or even something that community groups can use. So yeah, incubating entrepreneurship and commercialization, and they receive mentorship throughout this process. On the second floor is going to be a very large maker space, and this maker space is intended to be a resource for campus. It is a space for curricular innovations. On one side of it, on the bottom side, are classrooms where you can have more hands-on training. On the top side are these rooms that have heavy equipment. There will be a wood making studio, a metal making studio, 3D printers. There's a paint shop. And so you can go and work on your ideas and then assemble them in the prototyping room next door or move over into the workshop space. So this is really intended for a space to create and to make. And there's also room for studio courses as well as community members using the space as well. So really this is open to all types of different groups. On the third floor is our design lab, and the design lab is really intended to be an interdisciplinary space where faculty, students, and staff from all over campus can come together and to collaborate. And so we will have 5 large project spaces there. This is just a 3D diagram of 3 of the 5 project spaces, just to give you an idea of how we're thinking about designing this space. But each of these project spaces are over 700 square feet and are going to be spaces where faculty can come together from different departments. So these 3 different project spaces it's going to be called the Human-Computer Interaction Collaboratory, where cognitive science faculty, computer science faculty, engineering faculty, and other faculty will come together to use different types of equipment, including here's kind of some diagrams of what they propose to use in that space. They'll put in large interactive displays, augmented reality headsets, high resolution projectors, that should be projectors for augmented reality, virtual reality stations, spaces for prototyping and designing, kind of rapid prototyping. They've got an idea, their students have an idea, they've got a 3D printer there that they can rapidly prototype and see what it looks like. This is another group that's going to have project space in the design lab. This is the Bioregional Center for Sustainability here. This is run by Keith Pizzoli in Urban Studies and Planning. And he works on bringing together integrative mapping and geospatial analysis in order to engage the public, engage government and elected officials, in order to work on citizen science and also to democratize participation on issues related to planning and land use. And then we also have artists in the design lab. This is an image of an exhibit in Venice that Professor Pinar Yildiz has currently at the Venice Biennale And it's this speculative ecology of what our oceans will look like of the future because of climate change. So lots of different types of work that are going to happen in the design lab, and hopefully that'll spark creativity and innovation. On the fourth floor, this is directed and run by Paul Robin, the Vice Chancellor for Innovation. And the fourth floor will be dedicated to innovation and commercialization. So you could imagine that students on the first floor are incubating their ideas, and they go on the second floor and they make whatever they've designed on the first floor. And then they come to the third floor and work with faculty and graduate students and postdocs on designing and refining their ideas. And then if it's worthy enough on the fourth floor, they could head to the fourth floor, and Paul Robin and his shop can actually help them to launch their idea and grow it. And so they receive mentorship, they get access to industry partners, they might get access to funding. And so this is, the whole building is intended to enable the whole cycle of innovation, from idea to actually implementation and then scaling it in order to have societal impact. I wanted to talk a little bit about this exciting opportunity that we have. So I talked earlier about the community team in the design lab, and they are very much engaged in creating a design ecosystem in the region, in the San Diego Tijuana region. And the community team, alongside a nonprofit that the design lab created called the Design Forward Alliance. It's a 501c3 that convenes designers in the region. We put together a bid to be the World Design Capital, to get this designation to be the World Design Capital in 2024. And a month ago, we found out that we are finalists for this bid, and we are in competition with Moscow. And we will find out whether or not we are designated sometime in October. And if we are, this really does, elevate this region in terms of design. And it will be the first binational bid between Mexico and the US that the World Design Organization has ever received. San Diego will be the first city to actually be designated, a US city to be designated a World Design Capital. So we're very excited about this opportunity, and I wanted to share a little bit about just a video of our bid so you can see what our concept is for the World Design Capital. So let's see if I can pull that up. Sometimes these videos take a minute to load.
Every city was built on partial designs, but when you're looking at this region, you're looking at a place that developed in a totality by design, whether it be in Balboa Park or the central squares of Tijuana. If you look at the entire working waterfront of San Diego, that was one massive design with forethought that went forward hundreds of years into the future to think about what we could build together.
San Diego was a very unique place to spark what was a revolutionary new industry. The first human genome was sequenced 18 years ago, $3 billion took 10 years. And Illumina had the aspiration to do that for much less money and at the touch of a button. Our engineers and our scientists take great pride in doing things that are very complex to be designed in a way that makes it simple.
Here, we're right on the border. We want to change design so it's more community-driven. And human-centered design can be a powerful tool in developing a city and the landscape and where you sit and where you eat and where you play and where you work. More of the things that really make a difference in people's lives.
We do have an air terminal right on the border. And the two terminals from one side of the border to the other are connected with a bridge. It's the only place in the world that this has been done.
Our students here at the school, they are teach, for example, on both ways of designing in feet and inches and meters and centimeters. We are pushing them to learn how to practice in both sides. And I think that's very, very important for this region because it'll enrich both of the areas.
Nearshore development, I think, is a new trend that we're starting to see in other locations. And I feel that San Diego and TJ are prime for the market. TJ is a thriving tech hub, very similar to what we have in San Diego. Machine learning, full stack development, data science. Imagine now being a startup company and you're looking for talent to help quickly bootstrap an idea. Imagine if you can just go down, be in the same time zone, right down the street to get talented individuals. That's what, the San Diego TJ combination brings to the table.
The region and the world can learn from our work in Tijuana Innovadora that if you work through the community, then you can accomplish great things. Arts and culture, innovation and entrepreneurship, sustainability, that's part of our everyday life. Design is a part of all our projects and activities.
We think friendship is the best security apparatus on the border. So we're designing a multi-acre park on the border between San Diego and Tijuana. People will still live there, people will still work there and still play there. And imagine a majestic pier on the border extending out 1,800 feet into the sea, no fences on either side, so that we're celebrating each other.
So fingers crossed that we get the designation. So the Design Lab, and this is really our vision, is to create a space for creativity and innovation that links design, technology, because technology is a strength at UCSD, and scholarship, right? Where we ask really the most pressing societal problems, that we identify solutions that are not just innovative, but that can be scaled. And by scaling these innovations, we can really have more impact. We're focused on human-centered design at UCSD. So our designs are for all humans, not just some humans. And really, this idea of community-driven design, design that is co-designed by the people who can use the end product or the end policy or the end solution is really where we're focused. We want to expand and break disciplinary boundaries. So we think about projects and problems rather than disciplines. And we want the Design Lab and our new beautiful building, the Design and Innovation Building, to be a space that is really inclusive for students, staff, faculty, partners, and the public. The Design Lab currently is in its 7th year. I'm the 2nd director. You saw Don Norman in the World Design Capital video there. I've taken over for Don since March of this year. I've only been in San Diego for 2 months, so relatively new to the area, although I am a Southern Californian. We have 5 Design Lab FTEs. Those are faculty who we've hired. However, we have a governance system that allows faculty from all over campus to be either voting faculty or affiliated faculty. So voting faculty can vote on different policies or practices that we have in the Design Lab. We have undergraduate and graduate students and postdocs from all over campus working on our research. We have a very strong community team. What I just showed about the World Design Capital bid, they took the lead on that, but they're doing so much more to engage the design community across the region. That we've started a Design Forward Alliance, a 501c3, in order to really have community-driven design. These are designers in the community that volunteer to be a part of this alliance. We've got strong industry and community partnerships we're working with. These are just some examples: IBM, Sony, Hewlett Packard, Sandag, local governments, regional governments. We're moving into a new building, the Design and Innovation Building, which will be a gateway to the campus, but we also have a footprint in the new building downtown, the Park and Market building, which will have offices that are co-located next to community-based organizations such as the Economic Development Corporation, as well as the Black Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Burnham Center. And so this office and this building downtown will be an innovation hub as well. And so we also get to be connected by the trolley. So it's really this wonderful opportunity, and also the university's investment in being community facing, outward facing. Someone mentioned whether or not the people from the trolley can look inside the building, and indeed they can. The design of those project spaces on both the 4th and the 3rd floor, they actually have huge windows where if you're taking the trolley, you can look inside them and see what's happening. And we want those spaces to be vibrant and dynamic and heavily utilized. And so we're cramming a lot of activity into the new building. And, we really want to grow the Design Lab and have impact in terms of, how we can shape what we do, right? So having impact in the state of California as well as globally, and be a leader really in design education, scholarship, and practice. I don't think when you look around to other design schools or design units at our peer institutions that they are conceiving of design in quite this manner. So the question I have for you all, and which I started off with, was how do we create a successful, self-sustaining, non-traditional, transdisciplinary unit that serves both the campus and the community? So just so you know, the Design Lab's not an academic unit. It's not a school or an ORU. And so we sit in this interesting space, right? UCSD talks a lot about being non-traditional. That's in their tagline. But as you all know, having worked at the university, that it's hard to operate when you're non-traditional in a traditional space where the organizational and institutional structures are trying to fit you into more traditional ways of operation. So any advice you have, any feedback would be welcomed. So I'm gonna end there and open it up for questions.